Paizo has remastered the Barbarian in Player Core 2, and recently, Nonat went over the class in a video that I will link to in the description. While his overall reaction was positive, there was one aspect of the remastered Barbarian that had him, well, underwhelmed. I'm talking, of course, about the Fury Barbarian. It is common knowledge that the Fury Barbarian needed an overhaul, and if Paizo was going to do so, Player Core 2 was the place to do it. Sadly, the Fury Instinct didn't receive the love that the other instincts received, much to Nonat's disappointment. The beacons are lit! Nonat calls for aid! And Jason will answer. I decided that I would attempt to rescue the Fury Instinct and wrote up my own homebrew variant of that instinct, should you choose to use it. I am not a professional game designer and none of my homebrew has ever been playtested, so use at your discretion. But with that caveat aside, it is my hope that my work makes your game better. If you have suggestions on how to improve the instinct, please leave them in the comments. I will probably revisit this homebrew in the future, and if I agree with your suggestions, they might just make it into future versions. Before I get into this, I want to take a moment and defend Paizo. Barbarians are basically rage monsters, and Fury is just another term for rage. Based on the scarcity of feats for the instinct and the way the instinct's basic features were set up, I think Paizo might have considered this instinct a basic option, a default for players to choose if they wanted to focus on non-instinct specific feats. While I do think that this is a case of Paizo not reading the room, and that the Fury Instinct should be fully developed, I can understand where they might have been coming from. Lastly, I'd really appreciate it if you would like this video and subscribe if you want more content like this. Thank you. That said, here's my version of the Fury Instinct. Fury Barbarians are basically the Hulk. While other barbarians merely rage, Fury Barbarians get so rageful that they can find it hard to focus on anything other than the source of their rage. This makes them very reactionary and very powerful. For the Fury Barbarian's instinct ability, we have Overreactive Fury. With this ability, they can sacrifice one of their 3 actions in their upcoming turn to gain an extra reaction between turns. This means they can react twice instead of once, and because they have a lot of reaction-based feats, this gives them more flexibility to react to threats. They gain the level 1 Furious Vengeance feat as a free feat, allowing them to attack as a reaction. More on that later. Which is a good thing, because if they attack a creature as their reaction, and then attack that same target on their first action of their turn, they gain a +2 to both hit and damage on top of their damage due to rage. This represents they're getting furious at whatever triggered their reaction, and putting all of their focus and fury on that triggering creature. Speaking of their rage damage, the Fury Barbarian's rage damage is +3 instead of +2 when they first rage. However, the madder the Barbarian gets, the stronger they get. If I'm playing a Fury Barbarian named Nick, I made a joke, and I rage for more than a single round, my rage damage increases every 2 turns after that first round. In other words, on odd turns, my rage damage steps up by +1, so that by the 9th and 10th round, their rage damage is +6. That gets better when they achieve 7th level with their specialization ability, where their base rage damage increases to +7, and every 2 rounds steps up by +2, making the end of rage damage +15. And once they gain greater weapon specialization, their base rage damage is +13, and their every 2 round step up is +3, for a total end of rage damage of +25 rage damage, on top of everything before they even roll the dice. Wonderful. As for raging resistance, I've altered this quite a bit. Instead of being resistant to all physical damage administered by weapons, but not unarmed attacks, which is weird, they start out with resistance to bludgeoning damage. And that's it. However, anytime they take damage other than bludgeoning, they can make a flat check against a DC 10, and if successful, they gain resistance to that type of damage until either the rage ends, or they take a different type of damage and opt to roll the flat check again. Now let's look at the feats available exclusively to Fury Barbarians. Some of these feats are modified from ones found in Player Core 2. If you are using the homebrew, the following feats replace any Fury feats found in the original material. We start out with Adrenaline Surge at level 1. When you rage, your max bulk increases by +2 and goes up by +1 at the same rate as your rage damage increases, capping out at +6. And that goes up at a +2/+1 increment every 4 levels, so that by level 17, you are able to lift an excess bulk of +8 base bulk, and +5 per 2 rounds on top of that, which is insane. Next we have Blinding Focus, a feat that can be either one action on your turn or a reaction. This is one of 2 feats that allows you to make an attack as a result of a reaction. After you attack, if the triggering attacker's hit points isn't reduced to 0, they become your sole focus. You ignore everything else around you because you are so intent on attacking this one target. You become off guard to all creatures other than your sole focus and suffer a -2 to perception checks that don't involve that sole focus. In exchange, your to hit and to damage that sole focus is subject to a +2 circumstance bonus. This scales at higher levels. I envision an attack that so enrages your barbarian that their eyes just turn blood red as they stare down at their intended prey. Disarming Disruption lets you react to stop an attacker before they can harm an ally. Your disarm check is at +5 to hit, or +10 if you are raging. I picture this as an unarmed barbarian just grabbing the sword by the blade, even though it makes them bleed a little, and yanking it out of the wielder's hand, though you can certainly do this with a weapon in hand too. Should you succeed, not only is your target disarmed, but their attack on your ally fails. As I mentioned at the basic instinct description, all Fury Barbarians gain Furious Vengeance for free. Like Blinding Focus, this feat allows you to attack during a reaction if an ally is attacked by an adjacent attacker. But this one is a little more basic, simply allowing you a +2 to hit. It's a little bland, but as a free feat, it works fine. Closing out level 1, we have Smash, which is a rewrite of a remaster feat. You can subtract your level from the hardness of any object or construct when you deal damage to them. At level 1, that isn't much, but every little bit helps, and it scales as you level. At level 2, we have Blind Strike, a feat that was inspired by a fight between Grog and Lord Briarwood in The Legend of Vox Machina. I'll let Grog explain.
You can't even see me. If I don't know rough swinging, then neither will you.
Essentially, you are better at fighting blind than most people. Whether you just close your eyes or you're suffering a blinding effect, your penalty to hit for being blind is only -2 instead of -4. In addition, your foe finds your attacks so unpredictable that they suffer a -4 to their AC. Next, we have Raging Obstinance. Your rage so clouds your mind, or your focus on the object of your rage is so intense that attempts to control, fascinate, or frighten you are at -2 circumstance penalty. And if you are under the effects of Blinding Focus, that penalty is -5. Minor Tantrum is the first of 3 Tantrum feats, this one at level 2, then Tantrum at level 6, and finally Major Tantrum at level 12. Minor Tantrum sees your Fury Barbarian getting so ticked off at the triggering attacker for hurting them that your character isn't going to just hurt them, but everyone around you allied with them. If the triggering character or any of that character's allies are within your reach, they all have to make reflex saves, or they take your unarmed or weapon damage depending on what you are wielding. I'll talk about Tantrum and Major Tantrum in due time, but they'll both build on this feat. Tangle of Battle has been revised and demoted to a level 2 feat, but it is mostly the same as in the official remaster. If you had previously hit a creature, whether as part of your last action on your turn or during a previous reaction after your last turn, you can attempt to grapple that creature. However, this version of the feat does not feed into the multi-attack penalty. So if your preceding attack was your first attack, your grapple attack as part of this feat does not suffer any multi-attack penalty at all. This pairs well with other reactive attacks we've so far covered, particularly Minor Tantrum, since you'd then have your pick of targets to grab. Moving on to level 4, we have Adrenaline Rush, which allows you to add half your level, rounded down, to your rage damage. A very simple feat that makes you very, very dangerous. Out of the way! Turns you into a nearly unstoppable runaway fury train. If you had made a move action as your last action at the end of your turn, and another creature is within your reach when you finish your movement, you can use your reaction to either shove them or reposition them. You gain a +2 circumstance bonus to do so, and if you are successful, you can move your speed in any direction you choose. Raging Charge is another very simple feat that doubles the speed granted you by the Furious Footfalls feature, which is very difficult to say. Doubles the speed granted to you by the Furious Football. Raging Charge is another very simple feat that doubles the speed granted to you by the Furious Footfalls feature while you are raging. Couple that with Out of the Way, and you can really get around the battlefield. The last level 4 feat is Savage Vengeance. Once per round while raging, when you use Furious Vengeance, successful attacks also impose Wounded 1 on your target. Brutal. There are only 2 level 6 feats, starting with Furious Burrowing, which grants you a burrow speed equal to half your speed while raging, which increases to your full speed at level 12. Tantrum is the other level 6 feat, and it functions to expand the effects of Minor Tantrum to include a single ranged attack at the targeting attacker if that attacker made their attack at you from outside of your reach. You can only do this if you have a ranged weapon ready, or if you have something nearby that you could conceivably pick up and throw, like a rock or a piece of furniture or a spear that happens to be lying around unattended. There is only one 8th level feat for the Fury Barbarian, and that is Unstoppable. While raging, you have access to the 4th rank Unfettered Movement spell, allowing you to ignore effects that would provide a circumstance penalty to your speed, and to automatically succeed at escaping from effects that have the immobilized, grabbed, or restrained effects, unless from a 5th level or higher magical effect. Between Out of the Way, Raging Charge, and Unstoppable, your Fury Barbarian will let nothing stand in their way. Only 3 more feats to talk about, so let's keep going. At level 10, we have Greater Rage Resistance, where instead of only being able to gain 1 extra resistance for a flat DC 10 check, you can have 2. Should you go for a third, one of the 2 you already have must be sacrificed. But in a single combat, it'll be rare for you to need more than 3 resistances in total, including bludgeoning, which you get automatically. Level 12 brings us finally to Major Tantrum. Not only does this allow you to use your tantrum twice in a single round now, but you can ignore up to 5 points of resistance to your damage type during your tantrum. This is very flexible, since you could tantrum once and use your sword against one foe, and then tantrum again and use a warhammer against another foe. And the first attack would ignore resistance to slashing damage, and the second attack would ignore resistance to bludgeoning. This can only happen during a tantrum and not your normal attacks on your turn, but the whole point of the Fury Barbarian is that they live in the moment and fight reflexively rather than through planning, so this gives great flavor to the instinct. We've reached the last feat for the Fury Barbarian at level 16, the Rage-Clouded Mind. Your thoughts are so fogged by fury that mind reading becomes very difficult. You gain the effects of the 8th rank Hidden Mind spell, granting you a +4 status bonus on saves to resist mental effects, as well as hiding your mind from attempts to locate or scry on you. Page 335 of Player Core 1 has the full details on the spell, but now not only is your Fury Barbarian difficult to control, they're difficult to even find magically. And that's it! My effort to improve the Fury Barbarian has been laid bare. Again, this is a homebrew, and has never been play tested, so if you choose to play it and want to provide some feedback so I can improve it, or if you just are well versed in the rules and see ways I can make the instinct better, throw a comment my way. Thank you for watching. Thanks to NoNat for inspiring this homebrew, and for all the work he does to make this community better. I've also reworked my Arachnified class for the remaster, where you can play as a Spider-Man themed hero in Pathfinder. And I've provided that link in the description as well if you're curious about that. I might do a deep dive on that in the future. But in any case, thank you again. Please like and subscribe if you want more content. until next time, go and find your path.